And we're live. Welcome back to the Moment Makers podcast.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
We're going OG style today. I've had some scheduling conflicts, and we're not able to do stuff as professional as we'd like to. So I'm recording on my phone right now. So the quality is not going to be 100%, but bear with us. We're going to keep it going, keep it trucking, and do what we got to do to keep content going out there for you guys. I
Exactly.
want to plug the website real quick, SperoCloth.com. Use code podcast10 to save 10% off your entire purchase. You can also find us on Moment Makers Life on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, man. I actually just got some of my shirts in great quality. So we're gonna be doing a photo shoot soon. So keep an eye out. And for those that are buying the shirts and want to send us a picture, we'll feature you on our Instagram, give you a shout out. And we appreciate all you guys' support.
For sure, for sure. Well, so you had a topic that you wanted to talk about today. Go ahead and give an idea of kind of what we're talking about today and where it came from.
Okay, so today I want to talk about self-acceptance. Lately, I've been having a lot of friends talking to me because they've been struggling with, you can say, self-identification and worrying about everybody else's expectations for their lives. Brendan and I were both in the age group roughly like mid 20s, and I've noticed that at least in my life, once you hit like 25, and a lot of my other friends are experiencing this, is kind of feeling that pressure, like you have to have your stuff together, and a lot of my friends have been coming to me stressing out and having high anxiety because society's expectations, by 25, you want to be married, establishing a family, getting a house, having a career set, all these things. And I wanted to kind of bring this into a discussion because I've just been noticing it firsthand that a lot of expectations from other people can bring about anxiety, stress, depression. And I wanted to clarify that there's no specific timeline that anybody has to follow. So I wanted to basically dive into methods that could help anybody that's going through this to basically help them relax and then also give them a little bit of organization and a little bit of purpose so that they know where they stand and also to discover perhaps the next steps that they need to take so that they can maintain a stable mentality and continue to build themselves up. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about is everybody's else's expectations. Now, everybody's going to have their, you can say, where they're coming from. They may have like this motive where it's like, oh, I just want you to do well in life and all that. And I'm sure we've all heard that from our parents, and even though they're
Well, and I think
pressuring us.
the majority of boomers is that you go to college, you get a degree, and then you get a high paying job after school.
Yeah, which
That's
is
that's
not the
kind of
case these
the
days.
yeah, that's kind of like that's what they did, that's what their parents did, and there's a lot of cultural and economic changes that have happened the last 20 years, let alone the last 40, 50 years, um, when a lot of those people were in college. Um, but in their mind, what you should do and what their expectation of you is to go to school and to get a degree and then find a job and then start a family and buy a house and do all of these things. And the reality is that times have changed. First of all, that not more people are going into the workforce than they are going to school initially, and if they go to school, then they change their major 3 different times while they're in school.
Hmm.
So the reality is no one knows what they want to do. And I think that's a kind of defining um, split between the two, is that you got one generation that they expect you to do things the way that they did, and the generation where we're in right now is there's not one way to skin a cat. There's
Hmm.
20 different things that you could do, and it's kind of throwing stuff at the wall and figuring out what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, a lot of different majors in the past would actually score you a high paying job, whereas nowadays, a bachelor's degree basically means nothing.
Well, it's because everyone has one.
Yeah, exactly. So you got
It
to stand
used to be
out.
that having a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in something meant that you were above everybody else because there were maybe three other people that graduated that had that.
Mm.
Now, majority of people have 1, 2, 3 degrees when they graduate, and it doesn't mean the same thing. The market's saturated with that career path or that requirement, so the requirements are skewed.
Yeah, exactly. Like even here, over here in Chicago, like the mecca of like marketing. Dude, there's so many like marketing graduates that, as I do Uber on the side, I meet a lot of people, and all of them either say that they got business degrees or they got marketing degrees, and it's just like I started to realize that most people nowadays are getting jobs more so through connections than actual qualifications.
Well, and
And
that's all of it. Experience is, in my opinion, experience trumps education
oh, all
because
day.
you can learn, anybody can learn anything, but to develop a skill takes time and experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I think that part of society is kind of skewing that view because I've even noticed personally, I have a lot more experience than I do have with education. I do have my bachelor's, but I noticed that with other stuff, for instance, like with construction, I did construction for a little bit and I gained a lot of experience, but I don't have any type of degree or any trade certification. And for that reason, it took me a long time to actually find another like part-time job. And I was just lucky enough to have the family business going. So it's just like, you know, I like for people to kind of step back and realize the full picture of the situation. So I wanted them to understand that, like, dude, it's okay. Like nowadays, I want people to realize that when you look out into the economy, you look into society, it's a whole different spectrum, and you can't compare yourself to a previous generation where they were part of the boomers. It was a totally different economic situation. So the first thing that I wanted everybody to understand is that realize where you're at in the most current time, and be realistic about it. I had to realize that for myself because I went through a situation where I felt like I was going nowhere, even though I had my degree, I had a job, everything was cool, but it still wasn't making enough. And I was just sitting there like, well, what do I do now? Because I just did everything I was told to do,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And to be very honest, when I was working as a mental health professional, it just kind of opened my eyes that much more because I had spent, that whole saying where I'm sure you've seen it on Facebook, where there's like a meme where it says like, oh, you spend 40, 50, $60,000 on education to get a 30, $40,000 salary.
yeah, yep,
Literally what happened to me. I'm like probably like 30,000 in student loans, and then I started working and I was only making 30,000 a year.
yeah,
So I was like, what the heck? And it's like, and the qualifications is you've had to have some experience. You had to have at least 5 years of volunteer work, and then you had to have a 4-year degree. And it
yep,
was like, and that only gets you 30,000. I was making more at a dealership washing cars.
yep,
So, what I want people to understand is just be realistic with the situation, sit down and look at the bigger picture. And one thing that I actually learned from my mom is that everybody has their own timeline. So some people figured out what they wanted to do early on. Some people figured it out later. And for me, it was a little bit later. I just started my dream career, so I wanted to like tell people that just do what makes you happy because as cliche as that sounds, it is a game changer. So like for
well, and
me, yeah, I
and
mean, like, go ahead.
doing what makes you happy is relative too, because I mean, the person I was 10 years ago is not who I am now. What I was interested in 10 years ago is not what I'm interested in now. And I've been in and out of the car business the last 5, 6 years, but
Mm,
now I'm in the car business and I have a good job. I love my job, and I would like to keep where I'm at for a long time. Um,
yeah.
that doesn't mean that I'm content with that being my only source of income. I've got the podcasts and the website that I want to grow into something where it's self-sustaining. I don't want it to be something that I constantly have to put money into of my own, where it can kind of sustain itself. Um, and that's the thing is, what you choose to do right now may not be what you do forever
Mm-hmm.
because your interests change, and that's okay. And I think that's where, like, that again, the generational disconnect where our parents and grandparents and not so much our parents, because that generation has felt the recession in '08 and all that stuff that happened back then. But our grandparents, I mean, me selling cars to people every day, there's not one person that I've met that's over the age of 60 that did not hold the same job for their entire life, that did not retire from their company and have a 401k or some type of retirement plan. All of them had that because that was the thing to do back then. That was normal. What's normal now is to have a job 2-3 years and jump to another career path. Have that job for 2-3 years and then jump to another career path. That's the normal thing to do. And I've done a lot of research into why that's a thing. And there's a lot to do with, like, the economy's not what it used to be. So raises aren't given out the rate they were back in the 60s and 70s and all those types of economic cultural shifts. So people jump in and out of careers all the time because they're searching for what's going to make them a little more money because they have a little experience under their belt. So they jump into another career. So
Yeah, exactly.
just because you're in a career now or you don't know what you want to do doesn't mean that you won't figure it out. It just means that you're doing something for right now, and you're going to potentially find something else that you want to do in a year or two. And then, in 2-3 years from then, you might find something totally different that you want to do. I've had the last 4 or 5 years of my life, I've done 3 different careers. 2 that I love, 1 that I wasn't very good at. But I've jumped around because I wanted to experience life and figure out what I like. And now that I've done that, I've kind of found where I kind of want to stay because I've experienced things. Of course, I didn't go to school. I didn't spend a whole bunch of money or go into a bunch of debt to figure out what I wanted to do. So I kind of have a leg up there where I didn't spend a whole bunch of money or go into a bunch of debt to figure out what I wanted to do. I kind of made money while I was figuring that out. So that was kind of the trade-off. But I did have some financial troubles because of the jumping around.
Yeah.
So it's all relative to what your experience is and where you want to be. I think everybody's goal, whether you're wanting to make a whole bunch of money or to just be happy, is to just be comfortable, to be happy, to pay your bills, and to have a decent life.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can do that in any career as long as you find what you want, you set your goals, and you work to achieve them.
And I think also another factor is that for millennials, we've experienced the whole upbringing of like, oh, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything, you can be anything, right?
Yep.
And that's because we were being taught by a lot of boomers. Yeah, we had our parents and everything like that, but we also had a lot of older teachers that were telling us this because that's what they experienced. They're like, oh, I want to be this, so I went ahead and did it. And it was a lot easier back then because you didn't need a degree. All you needed was like either a connect or you just had a little bit of experience and you would get the job that you want. And then
Well,
consistently, like you said, get raises and get all those benefits.
I would say there's trade-offs to both because, I mean, back then it was easier to get a career through connections or through degrees or whatever, but now it's easier to start a job, like start a business. It's the easiest thing to do right now because of the internet,
Yeah, sure,
because
yeah.
we have this interconnecting thing that makes it so that me and you can do this podcast right now for free. We're not spending any money to do this. We're just doing it. And we have no prior experience doing it, but we're doing it. So it's now is the easiest time in the history of the world to do what you want to do. You just have to do it. And that's kind of where you're saying we had those teachers growing up, whether they're your grandparents or parents or great grandparents, whatever it is, that taught us if you want to do something, do it. Like put the work in to do it. And I think that's where me and you have a lot of friends that aren't very goal oriented, that are content with the minimum wage job, whatever the minimum wage is now. When I was working minimum wage, it was $7.25. I think it's up to like seven or like $8.25 or $8.50 or something like that now.
Guess what it is over here?
What is it there?
Dude, it is $11.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's about to
So
get bumped
like,
up to 15.
so minimum wage isn't even what it was, like not even 10 years ago, because I'm only 24. I'm almost 25. So I was maybe 18 when I started working. So that was less than 10 years ago. I mean, that was
Yep.
6 years ago. That's crazy that the minimum
Yeah.
wage is that different now. But I mean, we know people that are content with working minimum wage jobs and have no goals. And for them, that's what that's good enough for them. But for me, and the purpose of this podcast and what we're trying to do is to help people understand that doing what they want to do is okay. You know, I talk a lot about giving people permission to do things. So this is your permission to do what you want to do with your life. Not listen to your mom or not listen to your grandmother or grandfather. Do what you want to do. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, be a stay-at-home mom. Be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
As long as you can afford that, given the circumstances of whatever circumstances you're in, do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're fulfilled with that, and me saying the people in our lives aren't goal oriented isn't to knock them down a peg. It's to say, you know, if your goals aren't to be at home and to raise children, or you know, it something with a goal. If you're just living life and going through the motions, then you have no purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
And I noticed that even like within our friends, there's like a trend of them going through spurts of depression.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they've told you that, but I know they've told me like they don't know what they're doing with their lives. They kind of feel like they're wasting it away,
Yeah.
it's exactly where it stems from. Is like you said, because they're settling. They're just content with just a minimum wage job. And I noticed even within myself that I settled just to work in an office, and yeah, I was making okay money, but I still wasn't fulfilling the passions that I really had. And
Yeah.
I feel like you said right now, this is like the most pristine time to actually go ahead and chase your dreams because we have access to literally everything.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to like encourage everybody that's listening, you know, if you're questioning whether you want to chase a dream or not, go for it. I was just talking with one of my friends, and we were talking about the fact that it's beneficial to talk to the elderly because then you get another perspective. And most of the people that I've ever talked to that's been above the age of 60 or 70, they've all had the same regret, and the same regret is that they didn't chase their dreams, and that they didn't at least try.
Yeah.
And then like that's when you sit there and you feel like, oh man, I just like I wasted my life at this job. And like you said, most of the people that you've met over 60 have stuck to one job their entire lives. Yeah, they had stability. Yeah, they had income, all this stuff, but they didn't have the fulfillment of their dreams.
Well, the other thing too is that if you don't have a family to support, if you don't have wife and kids, or husband and kids, then you have more or less no risk involved with attempting your goals, because
Mm,
you're only supporting yourself. So I mean, if it really comes down to it, if you want that internship at Google to further yourself and what you want to do in your life and your tech career, you
mm,
can live off of a minimum wage job. Okay, you know, it's not going to be the most lavish lifestyle, but you can eat ramen every day and live with two or three people and learn everything you need to know about the tech industry. You know, that's not a realistic example, because for an internship at Google or something like that, you have to have schooling experience in the technical engineering, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But
Well, you
what
could even
what I'm
use
saying,
yeah, you could even use my apprenticeship for an example.
yeah, exactly. I mean that's the perfect example. I don't know why I didn't think of that though. Like you're working a minimum wage job, living at home, on top of apprenticing at a tattoo shop, so that you can further yourself in your career, in your goals, and what you want to do in life. Yeah, it's not the most lavish lifestyle right now. Yeah, you have made more money in the past, but you're more happy than you've ever been right now. And
Right.
you get to do this kind of other avenue where you get to talk about what you're doing. And I think that's more important than making all the money in the world. Yes, making money is good. It does open up avenues for you to do other things, but if you're not goal oriented in what you're doing anyway, then your money's just being thrown down the drain anyway. If you don't have goals in life and where you want to be in the next 5-10 years, and what you want to do, then any extra money you make, it doesn't matter if you make 60 grand or 120 grand, all of that money is going to go down the drain because you're not going to save any of it. You're not going to invest it in any of your own personal ventures.
Yep.
um, Me and you, we're investing in this podcast, this mission with Spero.
Yeah,
We're putting
exactly.
time and energy and money into something that truthfully hasn't yielded any result other than us spending money on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because we have goals that we're wanting to put the time and the effort into doing this so that it can grow into something. We're not spending that money on Xboxes or PlayStations or fancy cars that we really don't need. We're goal oriented with how we're spending our money and our time, because our time is just as valuable as our money.
Yep. If not more.
Yeah. And again, going back to the fact that we live in the best time in history to do what you want to do in life. If you waste your time getting high, jerking off, and playing video games, then you're not really doing anything with your life. If you have goals and you put forth an effort into achieving those goals, you're going to accomplish so much more in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I wanted to encourage because like I was saying, my friends were all coming to me all kind of concerned
Yeah.
and just stressing out. And it's just like, don't worry about it. Like, take your time, figure out what you really want to do, and don't settle. That's like, honestly, that's been like my motto for the past couple weeks is do not settle. So many people settle and then they feel like they missed out on life. If you
Yeah.
wanna, if you wanna be a tattoo artist, go and start learning how to draw. Do what you got to do. Start somewhere. I always tell
And if
people
you
if you
and
just
if
have
you
the
don't
will.
like it, then
Hmm.
stop it. Like, find something else that you like.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to, just because you chose this one avenue doesn't mean that's what you have to do the rest of your life. Figure something else out.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it, my wife, we've talked about this before, where she wanted to do nursing and then she decided that's not what she wanted to do. So she quit. It doesn't make her a failure. It doesn't mean that she's not successful. It means that she found an avenue that she didn't want. She thought she did. She decided that it's not what she wanted to do, so she stopped. And now she's readjusting and figuring out what she wants. But if you stress about it, it's going to take up all your time and you're not going to focus on what you actually need to focus on, which is your goals. That's one thing. My biggest tip for people that are stressing about what they want to do or what career to go into, make a list of goals that you have in your life, what you want to accomplish. I do a journal every morning where I have points, and I can send this to you if you want more information on it. You, Eli, and people listening to the podcast, if you want more information on it. But I took it from Zach Kravitz. He's a YouTuber, content creator, personality kind of person on the internet. Really awesome guy. He's a filmmaker.
Hmm.
But I took this from him where you kind of, it's a list of 1 through 10, and I've kind of adapted it for myself. But like number 1 is like, how motivated are you today? Number 2 is XYZ, and then you kind of go through and you have like long-term goals and short-term goals. And it helps me kind of visualize what I want in life. right
Yeah.
now and in the future. And I think for especially people in our age group, not knowing what they want to do, it can be extremely helpful in kind of funneling all of your energy into one area that you don't even know what it is yet. You can write down, oh, I like doing this, so maybe I'll try something with that today.
Hmm.
Or, start a hobby, start a podcast, do whatever it is that makes you feel happy, feel good. It might not be fun, it might be some work, but it's going to be fulfilling because it's something that you feel like you is worth doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an investment within yourself. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand that investment means work for it. You got to work, you got to put the money, you got to put the time, you got to put the effort. And for example, even with, like you said, like with us, like I'm working multiple jobs. Uh, you're working and taking care of a family and then still doing this on the side. And even just having a family is a whole nother level.
Yep.
So it's just understanding, like people have to understand that things are not just gonna be handed to you. And even with the, like you said, with the listings, it's like that's like one little thing that you can do that can help build yourself up. And I do the same thing. Like I have my list that I have on my phone, and I have my major goals. I have my day-to-day goals, and what I made sure is that my day-to-day goals are small steps that are building up towards the major goal.
Yep.
So like for instance, my major goal by the end of the year is to be a full-time tattoo artist, and my smaller goals is buying supplies, making sure that I'm still getting my drawings done, practicing, make sure I'm still getting to the shop early so that I can still keep on showing that I'm still dedicated and making sure that I'm being responsible at the shop. But then I'm also still taking time going out, looking for inspiration, still having that time to relax and step away from tattooing, but still having that avenue of inspiration. So I'm still doing something with tattooing, but I'm not actually
Yeah.
drawing or actively tattooing in that moment. So it gives me time to relax. And I think that people need to really consider doing that because, a lot of people write down their list of goals, but then they won't list, actual realistic steps that will actually help them. So that they'll say like, oh, I want to, for instance, we'll just do fitness since you and I both
Yeah.
have a little bit of background on it. So they'll say like, I want to lose 100 pounds. And then I'm like, okay,
Yep.
so then what do you do? They'll be like, oh, I'll eat clean and go to the gym. Okay, now what? Then that's usually where they draw a blank.
Yeah.
That's when you have to dig deep, do your research, see what types of workouts you want to do, how many times a week you want to do it, for how many hours,
Yep.
what diet are you gonna go for? Are you gonna, are you gonna do intermittent fasting? Are you gonna try and do this whole crazy new low carb? Like, have you even heard of the carnivore diet that's going around now?
Yeah. I tried it for a little bit.
Yeah, it's insane because that'll screw up your hormones to a whole nother level. Because essentially, what people don't understand is carbohydrates is actually what helps regulate everything that's going on in your body. It's your source of energy. So yeah,
I
you
would
want to
actually
replace it.
disagree with you there.
Dude, actually, because when they're doing more studies on it, because this is basically stems back from even a low carb diet. A lot of people, you can do it for a little bit. Like, it's effective if you do it in spurts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and
and
then,
I agree with that. I don't think there's enough longevity in the research to determine whether it's good or bad long term.
yeah,
But like going back to the idea behind the carnivore diet is like a Paleolithic kind of approach that like
yeah,
our ancestors that were like hunter gatherers, they were more hunters than they were gatherers, depending on what area you were in.
yeah,
So your availability to like fruits and vegetables were next to nothing. So they were more meat eaters than they were anything. Um, so the idea behind it is that fat is what kind of regulates your hormones, and I think that so like my stance on depression and anxiety is more diet oriented, where people are told to not have as much fat in their diet because it's bad for you. It's what's going to make you fat.
yeah,
Um, fat's actually really good for you, especially when you have the right kinds of fats in your diet, and the right amounts.
yeah. It
Um,
actually
it can
regulates
regulate your
your
hormones and help
exactly.
with depression and anxiety. And I've actually been on forums and stuff on Facebook, um, with people that have done the carnivore diet, and it's alleviated a lot of like autoimmune diseases and like depression and anxiety for some people. What it is, it's an elimination diet, so it gets rid of everything that could be a trigger for your gut, or an allergic response to anything in your diet, that you may not know about. So like you might have an allergy to nightshades, which are like tomatoes and peppers and those kinds of things, and never know it because you eat peppers every day.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you cut everything out of your diet, you can kind of find what those triggers are and what's making you feel inflamed. It's an extremely low inflammatory diet. I do agree with you that for some people, in some cases, that carbohydrates are beneficial. The research that I've done shows that they're not necessary by any means. And there's a guy, Sean Baker's the one that kind of is the figurehead for carnivore. He's a practicing doctor. He's an orthopedic surgeon, I think is what he is. But he got his license revoked a few years ago because he was recommending this diet. Another one is Dr. Ken Berry. He's a family practice doctor, I believe. He advocates for it. He does it himself. And both of them, their blood markers and their health markers, whatever you determine as a health marker, are all perfect. So there's a lot of research for and a lot of negatives against it because there's not a whole lot of longevity with it. But like I nerd out when it comes to nutrition because I'm all about the low carb and I don't necessarily follow it to a T myself, but I have done carnivore and I was in the best shape and I felt the best that I've ever felt when I did it. I did it for about a month. So
well,
not to go off on a tangent.
No, that's cool because I like to educate everybody. And when I was, I guess I'll elaborate more on why I was talking about carbohydrates, and I was talking more of like simple carbohydrates. So it's not like I totally agree with you that like all other complex carbohydrates are pretty much useless other than just filling your gut. And that's actually where most of those foods actually came from, was from the poor people needing to feel full, like rices, breads, all that stuff. But you get a lot of micronutrients from your fruits and veggies, obviously, but still in moderation. So I totally agree with the carnivore diet in that manner, where it's like if you were to actually go back in time, depending on the season, the location, everything, you're very limited on your fruits and veggies, so mainly meats. So that's where I was saying like,
I got you. I just nerd out when it comes to it. I didn't mean to derail your whole conversation about it.
No, you're cool.
But I totally agree with you too. I totally agree with you that I don't believe there's one diet for every person. And I think that's why the whole like westernized idea of what nutrition is so detrimental to people. Because it generalizes the population into being this one way. And I think that's why you have so many autoimmune diseases, and you could even classify depression and anxiety as an autoimmune response to certain things in your gut. Because your gut microbiome is what they kind of refer to as a second brain. If your gut's out of whack, then your mind's not right. So there's a lot of connection between diet and your mental space, I guess is what I'm getting at with that. So eating the right kinds of foods for you is I think a good kind of route to take with it too. Even just like what you were talking about, if you're trying to lose weight, or kind of going back on the idea of if you don't know what you want to do with life, I mean that's a great place to start, is to just start with your diet and exercise, because that can boost your mood immensely to where you think a little bit clearer, you feel better, so you're starting to get more confidence about what you want to do in life.
On top of that, so developing a more goal-oriented mindset.
Yep.
So it's a perfect way to start off. So then basically when you're adding that all together, and like I said, instead of just setting up big goals, actually setting up strategic steps and making those your smaller goals is very key. And also and wrapping this back toward the topic of self-acceptance, you're actually investing in yourself. So self-acceptance really stems from self-investments. So you're figuring out what you like, you're figuring out your dreams, you're taking care of yourself, and then you're also figuring out your worth, which has been another thing that's been coming up a lot. And on a slight tangent, it's just so funny because a lot of I've never really looked into like astrology or anything like that.
Hmm.
And like, have you heard of like the retrograde and all that?
I've heard of it. I really don't know anything involved with it other than that like people believe that it has to do with why they are the way
Yeah. So
they are.
I was like, at first, I was like, nah, this is kind of like kind of crap, you know? But then,
Hmm.
bro, when I tell you, one of my buddies at the shop was like teasing and talking about the retrograde,
Yeah.
and and he was just like, yeah, the retrograde is in full effect, so that means that like there's gonna be a lot of relationships ending and a lot of exes coming back into your life and all this stuff. And he's talking about everybody in general. Dude, tell me why like there's so many people that are like breaking up left and
Huh.
right. And I'm sitting here like, what is going on?
Huh.
But wrapping back to the topic, even with relationships or work or anything in life in general, nothing will flourish until you have accepted yourself for who you are and you
Yeah.
realize who you want to be.
Yeah.
And
Well, and it that's what it all comes back to is what you're saying, self acceptance.
yeah,
Um, like
so
I, that's a big thing just in general. Is you can't, whether you want to be a counselor or you want to just be a financial advisor or you want to be a graphic designer, if you don't have self care, and we talked about it last week with Hannah Brown, um, if you don't have self care, then you're no good to anybody. If you don't have that, for a way of putting it, you have to be selfish. You have to invest in yourself and have self care,
yeah,
have discipline for yourself to work on your skills that you want to develop, to put time into what you want to do, so that you can get to where you want to be in life.
yeah, exactly. And I think like once people find that realization within themselves, that's when you're gonna hit that pivotal change in life. I was just talking with my buddy Eddie, and he's a relatively new father. His baby's barely creeping up on 6 months, I do believe.
Okay.
And I was sitting down and talking with him, and coming from experience of having a household without a father figure in the picture, him and I
Hmm.
both relate on that. So for
Yeah.
us, we realize now that we're hitting 25, 26, we're really starting to be challenged on understanding what it really means to be a man, and not like
Yeah.
stereotypical like what society thinks of a man, but like truly understand what it means to be a man, to truly be a part of a family, and to truly keep building yourself up. And that's been like our biggest challenge lately because for him, he's also taking care of a family and still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I always try and encourage him, and I encourage anybody listening, like make sure you take your time for yourself to really understand who you are so that when you do have a family and you do want to start a family, that you can be truly a solid figure in that family because you know who
Yeah.
you are and you know your morals and you have everything set in that aspect.
Yeah.
And I do believe that like a huge I guess trend that's going around is everybody's identifying through relationships. So and that's like a societal thing because they always want to encourage
Yeah.
to be with somebody. So if I've met people that don't want to be in relationships, and that's okay. And that's where I want to encourage people, self-acceptance. The way you feel, the way the crap that you want, that's what you should go for. Don't worry about what other people think. You know, if you like, let's say you want to move to a different state, but you got everybody freaking out, saying like, "Oh, you're crazy," or whatever. Do it, because then you're gonna be old as hell, and regretting the fuck out of it. So it's
Well,
like you just
and
enjoy it.
take note of why they're telling you not to. Is it because they don't want you to leave, or is it because they're actually worried about you?
Yeah,
Because
well, true. You got a point.
9 times out of 10, it's because they're selfish and they don't want you to be better than what they are.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, there's this saying, if I can remember it correctly, uh, it's like when you're celebrating your successes, really see people's reaction, because those that are clapping are sometimes not clapping for your success, but clapping for the revenge that they're going to take or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not like everybody's truly a supporter. They're trying to just ride the wave. And
Yep.
and even myself, I've experienced that now that I've started my apprenticeship. Like I've had people that have been in my life for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're freaking out, or they're trying to take advantage and just get free stuff all the time. And it's like, nah, you want to be a supportive friend. You want to have that true support, then you support by supporting the business. You know?
That's my biggest thing with like being a friend of an entrepreneur, right? Like
Yeah,
someone is investing their time and their money into something, and you want to ask them for a free thing. You want to ask them for a discount? No, you should pay more for that person because you want to invest in their life, right?
exactly.
Like I don't understand that mentality when it comes to people. Oh, you know that person? Let's get a discount. No, you know that person? Let's pay full price. Let's help them out. Let's support their business.
Exactly. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Preach it, man. Preach it.
But that's the only reason we're doing this podcast is so I can get free tats.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting free
But
shirts.
yeah, free shirts, free tats. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
But yeah, I mean, I was just like, for real, with people, and I just like, there's actually been a study that's been showing that there's been a rise in depression and a rise in anxiety, because nowadays there's such instant access, like we discussed. There's so much that you can do, and there's that pressure that everybody thinks that you gotta have it all together before you're 30.
Yeah.
And even I remember establishing those goals when I was younger. I was like, you know what? By 21, I'll start my career. I'll have graduated college. By 25, I'll be married. By 30, I'll have my kid and I'll have a house and all that stuff. Bro, I'm 25, single, and I'm working minimum wage, and I'm working at a free apprenticeship.
Well, and like,
It's completely ass backwards.
well, and that's the thing that's okay. Like,
Exactly.
we have to stop thinking of that as a bad thing. Like, and
Exactly.
I know you weren't, but the way you said it was like, oh, I had all these goals and I did the opposite of those goals. Like, cool, awesome. So you're doing what you want to do in life. You decided that what your goals were 6 years ago aren't what your goals are now. Cool, you're maturing as a person, you know? Like we should look at that as a good thing when people
Mhm.
don't do what they wanted to do 6 years ago. Because they're a different person. Hopefully they're a better person than they were 6 years ago.
Yeah,
Hopefully they have more goals and want to do more than just further their career and make money. They want to help better the lives of the people around them.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, like
And
we as a culture have to decide that, oh, you're 25, you don't have a kid or a wife or a house. Cool. So what are you doing? What goals do you have? What are we doing with life? Not what career are you in, but like what are your goals in life?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
I think maybe that's the conversation we need to start having is, what are your goals? You don't have a career in mind or anything. What are you doing? Because I think that's a different conversation to have with people than, what is your and goals in the sense of like, what are you doing in life to better the lives of other people around you? And
Yeah,
I think if we make that our mission and that what we do, you'll see a lot happier people as a result of that because it's not about you and what you're doing in life. It's about what you can do for other people. Not that you can't do anything for yourself, but there's a lot more reward when you help somebody else. There's a lot more to gain from it. So
yeah. And then on top of that, we all talk about world peace and everything. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing personally?
yeah,
Everybody wants to focus on careers and being successful and all that, but in my opinion, part of success is being a positive impact in this world.
yeah, 100%. I think that's a good place to end it too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a great line to end it on. So um, we'll stop it here. We'll cut it a little short than what normal podcast episodes are. Of course, there's really no normal podcast episode at this point.
Self-acceptance our own.
um, we'll catch you guys in the next one. We'll say something about the website here, sparocloth.com. Use podcast 10 to save 10% off if you don't want to support us. It's cool. You can save a little bit of money. Our goal is to just spread hope and build a community of people. So if you jive with that, then help support us, spread the name, spread the word to other people, and share this episode with someone that you think might benefit from some of the information in it. I know we kind of jumped all over the place, but I think there's some nuggets of information in there that some people can get some benefit out of. So
Yeah, for sure. We keep it real.
We'll catch you guys in the next one.
All right, guys. Keep making those moments.